I don't want to take a lot of time. I really don't. So one of the programs that so what we're called cooperators, and there are people all across the nation that want to attach themselves to a cooperator in order to be able to go out on wildland deployment. Now that is whether they go out a single resource and they attach themselves to a hand crew or to a piece of equipment, or they're in the ICS incident command system at a higher level as a safety officer or something like that, with ops chief, planning chief, that kind of stuff. These people want to be attached to an organization. What this does, and this is one of the things that I really, so Captain McCann is going to retire in April. I mean, it is, when he told me that, I almost broke down, because I'll tell you, Captain McCann is just a wonderful individual with years and years of knowledge, and he's a great mentor, and it's going to be a huge loss. Unless we can come up with some way to be able to retain him in his retirement, to be able to put him as a higher level person within the organization running a program like this. And this program, what it does is those people attach themselves to LLCFR. He runs the program in IROC and all that to make sure they're on availability. They go on deployment. When they get done with the deployment, they give him all of the expenses from that deployment. And then he does all the billing for it. And then there's a 10% revenue on top of the total amount of what the actual deployment cost. So later on in here, if you look at the numbers in the very back of this actual packet, there's a different there's a drone program in here also. But if you see just on this one here that has the green, so if you look at that in amount right there, $132,000. So yeah, so 131,512.91 is what they actually, that's the 10% roughly, or that's what the net profit was after all the billing was taken care of. So then the person, so no, there's plethora. So yeah, so there's a run each year. And this is just 1 year. I don't know what year this is, Sean. Sean is the one that used to run this in DB.
This is this year's.
This year's, okay. And then Zach Bugatti, you remember Zach Bugatti, one of our captains? He does the same thing over in Rifle. And they have a bigger program over there than what DB did. And this supplemented the $2.4 million that they brought in off of their wildland program. So this right here, if you take and you see the town net profit minus benefits, the 72,768, that's what the town of Buena Vista received after they paid her salary at like roughly 58. So the town of Buena Vista received 72,000. Her salary was paid for, and he just managed this. She just managed this program. Well, I'd like to have Captain McCann manage a program like this for Leadville Lake County Fire Rescue. Now, on top of that, not only just doing this, Captain McCann is our wildland coordinator. With the staff that we have, the internships and the training that we've been able to do under his leadership to be able to get like Bo Nickman up to an engine boss level this last year, we have 3 in the wing to be able to do that also. And we'll be able to expand our wildland program, utilizing our interns, like what I was telling Councilmember Virginski earlier, utilizing our interns and our reserves to go out on wildland deployment. It's no longer 3 months because that's the only thing we can handle because we're killing our people to just do those 3 months. It's the long season. Like right now, Salida has a Type 6 in California. They've been there all summer long. They've just replenished the people or let them have 2 days off, and then they're back on the fire line. So they're in California right now. We could start in April, March, March and go through December rather than just doing May, June, July, right? The high peak seasons. So if we extend that and also be able to build, Captain McCann would be able to build our wildland program bigger than what it is, work on those certification levels, work on the actual things that you actually need to be able to go out on wildland equipment. We'll be able to send out a couple of pieces of equipment for a longer extended period of time, which brings in greater revenue. This is a way I think that we can pay for his salary. He can stay within our organization, build out our wildland program, and do this contract work. Now, there are some setbacks with this, and that's more administrative work. So the city would have to talk about how we take care of that for Donna, because we don't want to, she's already overloaded. I've always needed an assistant. Maybe we can get an assistant. I don't know how we work that out. That's the devil's in the details and how we move forward with that. But all in the while, the bigger picture is that we get to keep Captain McCann for a couple more years as a wildland fire chief, being able to broaden our wildland program, which is bringing in probably double the amount of revenue that we see now to take care of some of our capital improvements. And then this is gravy on top of that, this contract work that he'd be doing. The third thing that I'd like for him to do is dabble into the mitigation efforts that need to be done here in Lake County. Make those contacts that we need and be able to work with our partners to be able to say, okay, what's going on in Lake County, utilize our reserves, give them a part-time job while they're here doing some wildland mitigation. He already teaches at the college, the 130, 190 course with Councilmember Fergency. We could do S212 classes, which is the SAW classes, and really start to work on these mitigation efforts as our local department with our reserves and interns to be able to make those efforts happen. So it's just, I just want to bring that to your attention. Obviously, there's no decision making now. I would like to be able to continue to have these conversations and see if it's possible. I want to get a proposal together, a true proposal, more than just 1 year. I want to bring Pagani over and maybe either talk to council or my management board to see what their successes are with it. I want to get a true proposal together before any kind of decisions are made, but we have until April to be able to try to do this. And it's just, to me, it's revenue and it's operational expansion to be able to take care of local response here for wildland fires, mitigation efforts, and contract work. So it's big. I know it's big thinking, but it's doable. And I think that we can do it. And I think that Captain McCann is the person to do it.
Any questions for Chief Taylor? I will comment.
Downside, you said, is administrative, you think?
So, so when you bring in 14 to 15 people in a contract scenario, they would probably be contractors. These are some of the details when we work out. They'd be contractors with the city. They have to be put in our system, and then Donna has to pay them out through the city, and then we get reimbursed. So there's a workload involved for Donna.
It's more than just workload, and I am very careful not to add any more workload to Donna than she has now. She and I have had daily conversation. I will tell you that, and Dan knows this, I've been pretty lukewarm towards this program. But if I haven't learned anything else in the last 6 years, I've learned Dan is seldom wrong. This is probably a good program. How we administer it is the problem I'm having. And how we pay Captain McCann is the other problem I'm having. I don't want to get into the details, but you can imagine the administration of it is no small thing. And keep in mind that we're talking about adding 15 employees to the role, which throws us over the federal limit of 50 employees. And guess what happens next? Now we have a whole system of regulation that we currently don't have to deal with. So that's another issue. And then the third issue is again, how do we pay for these people up front? If it's Captain McCann and an administrator of some sort, Where's that money coming from? Are we going to pay them out of the proceeds of this? And their pay will be dependent upon those proceeds? That's one approach. This is all rhetorical in nature, don't get me wrong. So Dan, this is the challenge.
Right.
You know, it's not that I don't believe that this program would be successful. I believe that you know exactly what you're talking about and that it would be successful. How we implement it and administer it and pay for it, that's my issue.
Right, hence the proposal that I want to bring, and I need to collect a little bit more information before we can obviously move forward on this.
And
I'm gonna answer all those questions right there.
if I can ask, is that like, just a comment here is, first off, I would like to be part of this discussion if possible, as you're bringing this up to speed. I think very highly, I think the world of Captain McCann. I think he's a great mentor. I think he has one of the higher qualifications, but I will say that he's not a very good administrator. So the actual billing standpoint, I don't think that that's going to be in his wheelhouse. It's him, you know, I think that there's more to it than that. At least that's what I've seen from working with him, is that he likes doing and training and being out in the field and being that mentor to people. I don't think strong suit is him billing and doing all the administrative paperwork for paying people once they get back from a wildland fire deployment. I just don't think that in retirement would be even something. I just don't think that would be his strong suit. I think he's able to do it, but I think it would take more effort for him to do that. So just something to consider.
Yes.
Also, I mean, I think that maybe for the short term, Captain McCann could be a great piece of this puzzle. However, there are individuals that are probably in our community right now, me being one of them potentially, that would want to be a wildland fire coordinator at one point in my career, you know, in the future. So I would hate to have an internal candidate be the only selection for this opportunity, because I know that there's, and I'm not speaking for myself, but I know that Leadville has quite a significant group of people that live here and work over there or there or there that have those types of qualifications to be a wildland fire coordinator for the city. And so with higher qualifications in Captain McCann, we have division supervisors that live in this community.
Yep.
And that they might just say, you know what, I don't want to go over the hill. This sounds great. So I'm just saying that I think I agree with you in concept. I just think that perhaps there could be a little bit more thought put, and maybe Captain McCann, like I said, is the right fit for now. But I just think that there is probably, he could probably bring it to one level, and then there could be an opportunity for somebody to bring it to another level in the future. The last piece I'm going to say is, as much as this is a profit-making endeavor, which is probably my least favorite part of wildland fire. I will say that for working for 25 years of wildland firefighter, it is a grossly overused way for people making profit. And a lot of people profit off of this without doing too much work, to be perfectly honest. We have, as a federal employee, a task to pay for what we actually work. And I'll say that there are days that people will work 12 hours and they'll charge 16 hours. And if a piece of equipment sits there and is not being used, it still costs $7,500. And I think that we forgot that the reason why we're there is to actually stop the fire sometimes, and people just look at their pocketbooks. And that's internally, as a federal employee, I've had to have people go back and correct their crew time reports because they've been grossly overcharging the government, and I'm not a fan of it. So to that point, to that point, like, I understand this is a way for us, because there are those needs, right? As fires become more complex and larger, to have these type of cooperative agreements and be able to have people going out on fire deployments, and you're not going to change this beast one way or another. I'm I'm not gonna be the whistleblower with this. People know this is the culture that's been created. But I also would encourage with this program to make sure that we are really focusing on our community and making sure that we are arming, and I'm saying arming our people to be able to protect their homes and their resources and their assets, by giving them the training and being able to make it so people understand how to, protect their homes, on the private side. And then also coming up with better opportunities for community protection plans. I mean, we have the CWPP, but like, where does it make sense to put those fuel breaks and make it so a fire coming out of the northwest is able to actually be stopped because of that? So as much as we do have to make profit to have this going, and I'm not saying it's a necessity, on the other side, that wildland fire program has to be here for our community first. And I think that we have to really focus on our community first. If we focus on our community first, everything else is going to fall in line. But that's why we're here, right? Is this, service first.
I agree with all of that. The only reason why we're talking about revenue is because of the budgetary session.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Number one, when we go somewhere is to take care of somebody else's community. But actually, number one is to take care of our community, and they get the experience out there in order to be able to do that here locally. And if we grow our wildland program here locally, that's what's going to take care of our community first and foremost, because that's the most important thing. To include those mitigation efforts and that outreach and the community and the information that we can get out to the community members to be better prepared. I completely wholeheartedly agree.
I would say this, thank you for those insights. I mean, I really do appreciate it. And we will keep you included in this conversation as it goes forward. The Parsley Management Board, but I know it might be not easy for you to attend the management board, but maybe you can zoom in.
Well, if I will say this, this is a very strong, I'm very passionate about this type of work, and if I am included, I will prioritize it.
No, you'll be
That's
included.
important.
Because we need your experience and insights. I will say this, none of this is in this budget. And keep in mind, I was just mentioning to Donna, just the county share alone this year has gone up $250,000. I don't know if they realize that yet. And I don't know if they're gonna have a conniption fit when they see this. This is a big budget. It is, we talked about aggressive budgets. Boy, this one fits the bill, doesn't it? So I'd be a little bit concerned about expanding it any more this year. That's why I want to hear, if we can do this, how can we do this with a separate system, accounting system, to make it work?
Yeah,
So,
even if it's this way. And I'll try to have that proposal done sometime.
I will tell you that that's a challenge I've just given Dan, but the additional problem is that we can't get around is they have to be in the city. In order to be part of this system, those firefighters who are contract firefighters have to be city employees, from what you told me, in order for this to work properly.
Or contractors.
So anyway, just something to think about as we go forward. That makes me nervous, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I'll get
Sign me
that.
up, I'll leave the government. Let's
There we go. All right.
So back to this real quick. So because it's getting a little bit late here. Let's see. I'm just gonna skip to computer equipment 6550 and 6551 because they go together. Computer software. We're going to change our system at the department. Firehouse has been used over there since early, I think 99 or 2000. We're one upgrade from that system being completely obsolete. ESO bought out Firehouse, so we're we are literally it's obsolete. We don't want to go to ESO. It was one of our companies that we were looking into. The other company is ImageTrend. ImageTrend is what the hospital uses. They were on the state site and they're doing an upgrade also. So they're gonna have a greater expense for their software. We're gonna move into Image Trend so that we have compatibility with one another. And this, to give you an example, and this is where the computer comes in, I need to add, I need to make that line item actually 16,000 instead of 15,337. Now that's with computer equipment maintenance. That's with Dan, the IT guy also. But I need to make that 16 because the tough book's about 3,000. So you take that tough book, for instance, we go on a medical call, we can scan somebody's driver's license. It has, Image Trend has the capability of doing Bluetooth to the life pack so that the vital signs are being recorded within the Image Trend software itself. You can, it speaks with CAD with dispatch, so all the address information is already in there with the timestamps and everything else. And then what we do is we on site can put in notes and then give it or transfer, because normally it's the officer, it's the captain that's on the engine during a medical call that stands back and captures all the information. Then we can literally just push a button, a port button, and it'll go to the ambulance service and they have the report. It's captured in their statistics, it's captured in our statistics, and then they write their narrative, and then everybody goes down the road. With all of our routine calls, this software has templates that we can use to put in there so that most of the time that the officer can be done with the report itself before they even get back to the station, which will free up the time of the officer instead of writing reports at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. It'll be a wonderful thing for the organization. I think that for the amount for what it is, and it's under number, oh here, this is actually the new report on that.
But I think it's important for the fire department and the hospital to be using the same software. I think that's a huge benefit. And that would include the ambulance service. So.
And I think I might have put one of these in.
Dan, what was the other $200 increase that you talked about?
For
A $2,000 increase.
Oh, the 2,500 was
No.
for the computer software. So under computer software, 14,015 is what that line item should be.
Okay.
And then the computer equipment should be 16.
Okay. Got it.
And then that takes care of the software and the computer for this year. To be able to get into operation.
14,150. What?
Correct. 14,150.
Got it.
And 16 on the other.
All right. You
So
had
that-
talked to me about those already, so I was already planning on it.
And then the rescue equipment is the auto extrication equipment for the Type 3 engine when it comes in.
But
the
that's two
larger-
sets of equipment.
So it's two different pieces of equipment.
Oh, okay.
And actually, we're having 3 different companies come up and give us presentations out at the training center. We're gonna go and cut cars up. So if you want to come out, I'll let you know. That's cool. And these are actually battery operated, so they don't have hydraulic lines. They don't have the hydraulic pump. They're actually battery operated. They're smaller units to be able to fit on the Type 3 engine when it comes in here, to be able to utilize that piece of equipment for dual purpose. And so that's what that, and $2,500 annually for our rescue equipment. If you look in operational requests also in here in this package, you'll see a complete breakdown on what our rescue equipment would actually cost if we were to replace it, and it's roughly $20,000. It's capital.
All right, Dan, almost 8:30. Start wrapping it up.
So it's in this packet here, to kind of give you a breakdown of kind of what the replacement costs will need to be for rescue equipment. To replace all of our equipment that's just like our wetsuits, our dry suits, rope. We did some rope replacement this last year. Just certain things like that. It's roughly about $20,000. So I want to start chipping away at that. That's why we made an additional line item of $2,500 a year. And then the additional cost is that extrication equipment for one year. Other than that, I don't really have much. I'll get with you, Donna, about the grants that'll come in this year. So we can put them in here, because there's 73,325 when you go in for AFG. You know, it looks like you got the 94, we got the CMC 30,000.
That's the first one we talked about, that's not going into the budget revenue, right? Is
That's
it-
for AFG. It's to put the exhaust removal system in Station 2.
Oh, okay.
So was that going to the fire fund balance, or where were we going?
I would put it in the fire fund balance if it's just really in and out.
Okay,
It'll be a purchase, and then I'll do the 427 form, and then it should be reimbursed right away,
But is it reimbursed 100% or?
100%.
Okay,
But, I mean, there might be a delay.
yeah,
Depending on when, because I think it opens up quarterly, I have to do a report.
yeah,
So
that's
there
fine.
might be a minor delay. So the only thing, Mayor, I'll talk to you about this is supporting the training facility somehow. And some more of that build out of that structure, but we can talk later about that.
okay.
Because there's not much in the fire fund balance.
That's there's not much left in the training fund of the fire fund balance?
In total, when we're paying 82 down payment for type 3, 40,000 for.
Yeah, it's 85, but who's counting?
and
Okay,
42.6 for Station 2.
that's correct.
There's a dwindling.
We still have not been obligated against the 42.6 we've set aside both from the budget and from the fire fund balance. Haven't spent a dime of it. And that was a 10-year obligation.
Mhm.
This will be the second year of that 10-year obligation.
And
So how does that work?
Well, that's
I
supposed
mean,
to
does it
be,
just, it
well,
just extends it out on the back for 2 years or?
the answer is, we
Or
really never
eight.
gave it any thought, quite frankly, because, it was supposed to be our share of Station 2. Split a third, a third, a third.
Mhm.
That whole thing is just not being handled very well, quite frankly.
that's that kind of down.
We could get the time of day out of the county on some of these things. We want to share costs with them. We beg them to share costs with them. And it's like we're just running into a brick wall. It's like they don't hear us.
Mayor, if I may, and Chief, I know you have a big program. Since 2019, it usually has gone up $100,000 annually, up through, so from 2019 to 2020 to 2021, it's gone 1.1 to 1.2 to 1.3, and now we're at 1.7. I know that $100,000 allocated because of the replacement costs that you're trying to pay it forward. And then you have another $85,000 for that type 3, which then brings it to 1.53. It's like, then it's still,
That 85,000 is not attached to the budget.
it's not attached to the budget. So then I'm gonna take that 85,000 out and say that there is a big significant jump from 2021 to 2022. Even if we remove that $100,000 for the capital replacement cost, which I agree with, we need to do. I just think that once again, is this sustainable into the future? Are you gonna come back with another $300,000 capital or annual request increase for next year? Or are there places that you can actually sharpen your pencil and provide a better budget coming back? Because there's a lot of, even small things. I know that there's like some capital costs that you have to pay for Station 2, for example. You'll have additional utilities. You'll have additional telephone, right? These are things. We want to bring the wages up to a more competitive rate. I understand that. But I'm also seeing other pieces in this budget that I'm curious about, such as like, do we need to get a weight room out there right now for $5,000 extra dollars? I know it's a $5,000 for Station 2, a weight room, and the increase due to gym equipment for Station 2, $5,000 for minor equipment.
That's to build out Station 2.
Yeah, but I mean, we have to do all of that this year. Can we come up with maybe something as a capital request later down? I see, I'm just wondering if there is some places to sharpen the pencil because it's just, and I'd like to also hear from the council themselves, but I'm seeing a 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.7. Is that gonna be 2.1 next year? I mean, when is it gonna make it so all of a sudden the budget is gonna be unsustainable for the fire department?
So, if I may. So according to my calculations, after we get rid of, things that were put in the budget that were beyond control, insurance, workers' comp, the 100,000, the 72, the 30 for legal, all of that. Operational expansion is 160, 515. So with that, there's 27,000 for auto extrication equipment, which is an addition, which is an expense that we don't normally occur in the actual operational budget. So now you're down to about 130. And then there's equipment that's absolutely needed, like the software, that's 11,000, which we don't normally have in the budget. This year in particular, I think it was just everything that's going on with Station 2, the upgrades with the station, the Type 3 engine, being able to set some money aside. That's what the huge increase is. Normally, it has been roughly, according to my calculations here, it has been roughly about $100,000 a year, like we were saying. I think that cost of living, the increase on everything, the expansion, that's warranted for what we're seeing in today's society. In fact, I think that number should be way larger than $100,000 a year. Now, to offset that, we have the organizations themselves, ourselves, we have paid for hundreds of thousands of dollars to not impact this budget. And that is a good thing and an opportunity for us, talking about that revenue again, that we get to do so that the city and the county doesn't have to dip into their general funds even deeper for the capital improvements and so forth that the fire department needs. So if you were to take into account what we have paid for, like if you take this apparatus replacement sheet by chance and you look at how things were purchased, the last thing other than the Type 1 engine was a 1996 engine 603 that was paid for by the taxpayers.
I'm in
You
no
get what I'm
way,
saying?
I'm not
So-
saying about I'm not saying about the need for replacing, I'm just saying, you're telling me out of sharpening your pencil, you can't come up with anything in this budget. This is exactly what you need. There's no buffer whatsoever to reduce the budget down. In any one of these line items.
Well, some of those
Not-
things
not
would be
this-
things that we want. I mean, the extraction equipment, that, of course, you don't need it, but if I'm in a car accident here, heck yeah, I want you to come cut me out. You
I
know,
would say this, Dan and I have
seem
been
like
over
you'd be
this budget
interested.
line item by line item. I'm satisfied that he's done a good job with this budget. I agree with you. It's a $350,000 increase year over year. Make no mistake, that is not lost on me. And, I think the county's probably going to have to take a deep breath when they look at this thing. So,
Now there are areas, just to further conversation just a little bit. If you were to go back on this budget and look at the overtime rates of prior to 2017, they were in the 70 to 90,000 range. And so what we've been able to do is take that, now it's down to 10,000. Because we're bringing on the additional 4 that it will be paid for the next 3 years of people's salary. That's roughly $557,000 to pay for. So we've been able to reduce that amount, the $70,000 to $90,000 in overtime, to be able to put it in people's salaries so that it's not impactful on the budget itself. So we've just been basically shifting things around, like Station 2 that we pay, what was it, 16,000, 19,000, I think it was, for Station 2 down here since 2004. We paid $16,000 or whatever it was for Station 2. Now, that money from the cost of Station 2 is the increase that you see in the electrical or the utilities in this budget of the increase. So it offset that cost from Station 2 old to the new one to pay for the utilities. So there's a lot of creativity when we're doing this, but I can't get past, or we can't get over the cost of things in today. And those increases are, I mean, if you look at it, not just in the fire department's budget, the street department, public works, sheriff's department, police department, all across the board, and every department, their increase keeps going up and up and up. And I'm trying to do everything I can to be creative to be able to keep the costs down.
Well, I challenge you in the future, chief, to try to make it so if your budget would not grow at all for next year, because once again, I'm just stating to my current council people that at this rate, we will not be sustainable, and we have to clamp it off and make it for more sustainable growth. $300,000 a year, regardless, in a budget of anything, is going to continue to eat away at. We're not going to
Well,
be
it's
able
been
to.
less than $100,000 each year.
No, Max's point is well taken. This is a huge jump in budget. It is an exponential jump in budget.
This year.
If you think of, this particular year. Now, again, to Max's point, we have to work under the assumption that we're not dealing with a $350,000 increase every year. That again, just like with salaries, we reach a point of stasis where we're at a point where we need to be budgetarily, and we're not going to see these significant increases in
Well,
budget. So
Are you sure we're not? Because when I look at the replacement, kind of capital replacement chart, it's significant.
It is.
So I mean, I agree, like, there's a finite amount to which we can grow, but I think if we want to have working fire trucks, it does appear that we will have a similar amount of capital replacement in the coming years, or am I interpreting that incorrectly?
I think you're assuming some sort of wholesale look at replacement rather than maybe a piece of equipment each year. If you replace a piece of equipment each year, that alone might expand the budget by, let's say, $80,000 when you do a piece of equipment over 5 years. And we can do a piece of equipment over 7 and 8 years. It still has to go into ordinance now, which just makes me crazy. But nonetheless, we can do that. We can control budget by extending terms over the life, closer to the life of a piece of equipment rather than just 5 years. So the answer is, I think that we have the ability to control that year over year. Dana?
What?
Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Okay, we need to close this off. I mean, I actually agree with Max that this is a big budgetary change.
It is. May I make one more point? So it's really difficult as one agency to take care of both the city and the county. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why there's more growth in the fire department's budget than the other two city agencies, although they have had significant growth as well. If you were to take just one example, in order to manage law enforcement in all of Lake County, the two salaries is $170,000 between the police department, commissioner, and the sheriff. So if you were to combine those two agencies, I am still the cheapest agency to be able to take care of both the city and the county. They are over almost close to $3 million for street and road and road and bridge. And almost probably closer to $5 to $6 million for law enforcement. Now, I don't know if those numbers are correct.
No, they're not.
Specifically,
They're not. But go ahead.
I would imagine that the probably $3 million for law enforcement, maybe $2 million for streets.
Chief, your point's well taken. I mean, I wish that we could have a combined police department between the city and county, but there is a lot of duplications that are probably paying taxpayer paying the burden on that one, right? And so like, yeah, you're a very mean fighting machine when it comes to the services you provide, and you provide amazing services to our community. In no way, shape, or form is my looking at the budget supposed to be a reflection upon the duty that the services you provide here. I'm just saying that, like, I think a lot of people are tired right now because I don't hear
Absolutely.
anybody besides myself talking tonight.
I am too.
All right,
You know, 'cause the city overall is 512,000.
we're going to wrap it up. Thank you. Great conversation. At this time, we would take public comment. Steve, would you like to come up and speak to us?
Well, just a general thing. Just as an aside, I think it would be a horrible thing to combine both police departments without going into the details. Talking about the fire budget, I imagine that you do, I don't, maybe a study on what type of fires that we have and what type of responses is the expense of those. And to see I skimmed an article in the newspaper about making rescue calls in the wilderness, people liable for them if they're negligent. Why can't we charge people for the fire services if they're negligent in having a fire at their house?
Because they pay taxes.
Yeah, but if they're negligent by not getting their chimney cleaned or something like that, maybe this would take another level of bureaucracy, but mandate, okay, you gotta get your chimney cleaned every year and have a certification that you did that. And if they don't, and that causes a fire, and you have to go over there and spend $3,000 taking care of that, then they should be liable for that, just as if they got lost in the woods and it was somehow their fault for getting lost in the woods. And that could lower the cost of the fire department a little bit.
That's an insurance issue.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. We're all tired. We're gonna go home. I had a note here that I forgot to mention, but it just came up today. I was talking to the individual who owns that 10 acres beside and behind Big R. And he has it for sale. And he said he wants $500,000 for it. I said, well, you know what would you take for it? He said, well, maybe make me an offer. So I haven't gone any further than that. I just wanted you to know, I don't know if that would be a good location for housing or not. I would have to get out there and walk and stuff, but it piqued my interest. So I'll leave it at
Is
that.
that in the city limits?
Oh, yeah.
I just want to say I appreciate everybody's time tonight.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you for hanging in there. I'm at the end. I don't like being at the end. Next year, put it first. please.
We do that, but then you still be at the end. Dan, you are so well prepared. That was amazing. Thank you.
Is everybody already gone to bed? Is it because of
So when is it?
He's been up for 9 days. If not,
I got my booster.
Is everybody really, I mean, it's well past my bedtime because of the daylight savings
Yeah.
time.
You seem pretty amped up.
That's because I
Because you don't
have
drive.
Lipton iced tea or Arnold Palmer.
See, maybe
which
that
I-
was my problem. I didn't caffeinate before.
I didn't either, so I'm sure.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry for all my questioning and that kind of stuff.
All your questioning is good.
Well,
It's all on the way.
It's all
I would
good.
like to say that earlier, though, when we were talking about the second piece, the second fire station going up, and you were like, that's gonna take a lot of money to outfit and da, 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 and here we are.
Next extra,
Just saying, you called it.
You're right.
yeah, another $12,000 is for utilities, another $1,500 for, and that's estimated. Right, that's a big building.
Plus $85,000 a year in obligation over 10 years. Between the city and the fire fund balance. It's no small deal.
That's an operating cost. I told you so. When do I get to say that?
What, when did you say what?
I told you so.
Every meeting.
I'm telling